How's it going, guys? My name is Apaar Seth, and I am a master's student in computer science from New York University. And I'm making this video for people who will be taking a big data class at NYU. So I took my big data class under Professor Juan Rodriguez, and it was one of the best classes I took this semester. It was my first semester of grad school, and it was definitely my favorite class to take. And I'm just gonna be making this video. The idea behind was it that there are some of the things that I struggle with during the course, and I just wanted to share my experience and help you guys who will be taking this course in the future to, make sure that you don't face those problems and you can just maybe refer to these videos and just focus on the problem you're solving. So, one of the best things about taking this class was the professor is really focused on making sure that you are not bothered about grades. That's his last concern. He just wants you to learn and get the most of his class. And it's one of the best things I've found about his teaching methodology. So I'm going to be making this video specifically talk about Kafka and how would you guys, some of you guys would be using it in your final projects, which are obviously the majority chunk of your grades. And and I think it's a very important tool for engineers to learn because a lot of the data that we get in these days are real-time stream data, be it stocks or, you know, the data on the data points we get from our Apple Watch. So we have a lot of real-time data that we have access to, and we could solve a lot of problems with it. So a Kafka is a very good medium to stream real-time data onto its cluster from which you can use it to ingest into any database like MongoDB, Databricks. I'll be talking about Databricks because that's what I use. That's what I'm familiar with. And I think it's a very good platform because it has an inbuilt Apache Spark server running. So that being said, let's just jump right into what really Kafka is and how you could be using it in your projects. So Kafka is my bad. So Kafka is uh again, as I said, is a real-time streaming service where once you ingest data onto the cluster, the data is consumed into the cluster in it's produced into the cluster in forms of messages. So suppose you have a data set of 1 million rows. So each row is a message that is then produced onto the Kafka cluster, which is then, as you can see from this diagram, is you have to produce data onto the cluster and in form of messages, and you can pass like anything, in obviously in your projects you'll be passing a data set, like a whole data set, but you can pass a dictionary, a list, anything, and all of it is streamed onto as messages. And once it's onto the Kafka cluster, it is then consumed by us to be ingested onto a target database. In our case, it was Databricks. So let's just jump right into it. Obviously, Kafka is something I had no clue about. I had never used Kafka. I had never used Docker. So you can't really run Kafka locally on your computer. Like you can't just go on Google Colab or Jupyter Hub and try to run a Kafka cluster. That's not going to happen. You have to use cloud services to take advantage uh, of their services to run a Kafka cluster. And Yeah, that's what like I had no clue about it. Obviously, you can do it if you have Docker on your system, but again, that's gonna just take too much memory, and it's better to do it on a cloud service. And most of them are free, anyways, like free monthly trial. So in this video, I'm going to be using Confluent Cloud. It's a good service. You get about a month's free trial and about $400 in credit. And I don't think you'll be using any of it, most of it anyways. And as I log into I already used my student account to set up an account in Confluent. You can do that too. You can see I have 11 days left on my Confluent account and I've only used $9. So that's pretty awesome. So let's just jump right into it. We are going to be, first off, we have to create a cluster. That is where all of the magic will happen. And the best thing is we don't have to do anything. We don't have to write any code. The cloud services will take care of it. So in your Confluent dashboard, this is how it looks like. It has all your clusters in it. So I already made like these are for my project, but this one I just made for a video, which the video sucked. And so you go to environments, and in environments you go to the default environment because that is what is provided. And that is where you add a cluster. So this is very important. You can go with the basic one because for a project, we don't really need any specifics. You have to obviously integrate it to a cloud service. So you can have AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. I'll be using Google Cloud, and it'll ask you for a payment method. You don't need to do that. You just skip the payment method and name it something. You can name it the default name given. Doesn't really matter. So you just create your own cluster. So this is the very first step and an important step. And inside the cluster, there will be 2 or 3 things you need to take care of. So first off, we have to create a topic. You know, all the messages that I said we stream onto the cluster are streamed onto a Kafka topic. So a Kafka topic is contained inside the cluster, and we can just call it trial, and trial topic, and we just create the topic. And inside the topic, it has a production and a consumption. Again, as I said before, the data which is streamed onto the Kafka cluster is streamed onto the topic in form of messages. So the messages are first produced onto the cluster, and then they're consumed and ingested onto a designated database. So first off, you need to have a look at your cluster settings. Here you have 1 or 2 important things, mostly the endpoints. In the endpoint section, you can see the Bootstrap server. This is very important because this will be used to write a configuration code which connects your producer code in which you'll be passing your dataset to the Confluent Cloud cluster. So you have to make sure that you have these you're aware of these details and where you can find these details, because you will have to write a configuration code, which I'll just show it to you in just a second. And you have to create an API key. Again, very important. It will connect your Kafka producer to your Kafka cluster, and you have to create it. You give global access to it. And once the key is created, you will have the key username and a password. Now, once you create the key, you have to download it and API key for trial topic. Just name anything for description. And once it has been created and you download it, you cannot see the password again on your Kafka, on your Confluent dashboard. You will have to access the key, the API key, in a separate, here you can see, this is the API key. It has the username, it has the password, and it has the Bootstrap server that is associated with our Kafka cluster. Once you open the key inside the dashboard, you can never see the password again. You can only access the password on the file that has been downloaded. So make sure to download it in your project folder, and because you'd be needing it to write the configuration code. So once this is all done, I can show it to you, the configuration code to you. This is what connects your Kafka producer to the Kafka cluster. So here it has the Bootstrap server ID, it has your username for your API key, it has your password. So these three details are very important. I'll give details of this. I'll in fact upload it and have it in the description below for this video, and make sure to check that to just get an idea of how things go. In the next video, I'll show you how to write a producer in consumer code and how you'll be running it onto your terminal, how you'll be connecting it to your terminal, to your Kafka cluster. And yeah, in further videos, we'll see how we can use the data that we've received from the consumer onto the target database, that is Databricks in our case. So yeah, I'll show it to you then. All right, I guess that's it for now. And yeah.